Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Macroeconomics, it can honestly feel like a massive, tangled web of competing theories in math. But today, we're going to untangle the whole thing. We're looking at the grand story of the economy, and it really plays out as a fascinating tale of two completely distinct worlds. To bridge them, we're using a framework that's nothing short of legendary. Trust me, by the end of this, you are going to be perfectly prepped to absolutely ace your next macro exam.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with a tale of two worlds, move right into defining market equilibriums, explore analyzing policy shifts, take a hard look at when policy shifts backfire, and finish up with test your macro knowledge. Section 1, a tale of two worlds, the economy divided. To really grasp how the entire economy functions, we first need to mentally split it right down the middle into two distinct universes. On one side, we've got the goods market, and on the other, the money market. Over in the goods market, it's all about physical, tangible activity. People consuming, investing, producing. The big driving question over there is simply, how is income determined? But step across the border into the money market, and the vibe completely shifts. Here, it's all about people deciding to hold cash, demanding liquidity, and responding to interest rates. So the burning question in this world is entirely different. It's, how is the interest rate determined? Literally two separate worlds, asking two completely separate questions.
Section 2, defining market equilibriums, the IS and LM curves. All right, so now that we know our two worlds, we have to define the core market rules that govern them. And heads up, this part is absolutely critical for your exam prep.
Let's start over in the goods market. What's really interesting about how this side balances out is the downward sloping curve we use to represent it. That's the IS curve. It represents the goods market in perfect equilibrium. And what does equilibrium actually mean here? It means that investment, the I, exactly equals saving, the S, hence the IS curve. And here is a massive exam trick for you. Whenever a question mentions goods market equilibrium, it is always talking about the IS curve. Lock that mental association in right now.
But you might be wondering, why exactly is it downward sloping? Well, let's walk through the cause and effect chain. Imagine the interest rate in the economy falls. Because rates are lower, loans suddenly become much cheaper to take out, right? And businesses love cheap money, so they borrow more, which dramatically increases overall investment. Finally, with all that new investment building factories and hiring workers, production ramps up, and overall income rises. So interest rate goes down, income goes up. That inverse relationship is exactly what creates that downward slope.
Now let's jump over to our second universe, the money market. Over here, we use the LM curve. This is an upward sloping curve that represents the money market in equilibrium. In this world, balance happens when liquidity preference, the L, which is basically just the public's demand to hold cash, equals the total money supply, the M. So LM stands for liquidity and money. And just like before, here's your golden exam trick for this side. Whenever you see the phrase money market equilibrium, instantly think of the LM curve.
So why does the LM curve slope upward? Let's follow the logic here. Suppose overall income increases in the economy. People are earning more, right? Because they're earning and spending more, they naturally want to hold more actual cash for daily transactions. Their money demand goes up. But here's the catch. The total money supply is fixed by the central bank. You've got more demand chasing the exact same amount of money. So what happens? The price of holding money goes up, meaning the interest rate rises. Higher income inevitably leads to higher interest rates. It's a direct relationship, and that's exactly why you get an upward sloping LM curve. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute heart of macroeconomics. You bring the downward sloping IS curve from the goods market and the upward sloping LM curve from the money market, and you smash them together. The exact point where they intersect is where the magic happens. That IS-LM intersection determines the ultimate equilibrium income and the ultimate equilibrium interest rate for the entire economy. It's where both worlds finally balance each other out perfectly.
Section 3, analyzing policy shifts, changing the game. Okay, so we've defined our equilibriums, but let's be real, the economy never just sits perfectly still. Now we need to look at policy shifts, how the government and central bank actively step in to change the game. Let's break down these policy shifts, as keeping them straight is paramount for your exam. First up, fiscal policy. When the government decides to increase spending, like say, pouring billions into new infrastructure, overall demand and income increase. The result? This specific action shifts the IS curve to the right. So remember, fiscal policy mainly affects the goods market. Then we have monetary policy. When the central bank decides to increase the money supply, more cash becomes available in the system, which pushes interest rates down. The result here is that the LM curve shifts to the right. Monetary policy mainly affects the money market. Section 4. When policy shifts backfire, the plot twists. Shift a curve, fix the economy. Sounds super simple, right? But I have to warn you, these policy shifts are not magic wands. They come with some serious real-world limitations. Let's look at a couple of major plot twists. The most famous plot twist is probably the crowding out effect. Let's break this down step by step. First, the government aggressively increases spending. That's expansionary fiscal policy. As a direct result, overall income rises, which means the public's demand for money also rises. Because money demand is up, the interest rate gets pitched higher. And here is the real kicker. A higher interest rate makes borrowing much more expensive for everyday businesses. So private investment is actually reduced. The government's well-intentioned spending effectively crowds out the private sector. It's a massive limitation that shows expansionary fiscal policy can sometimes do real harm to private investment. And then we have the infamous liquidity trap. Mark this down because it's an incredibly hot topic for exams. This is a Keynesian scenario that happens when interest rates are already sitting at very, very low levels. At this point, people expect that interest rates have literally nowhere to go but up in the future. So instead of buying bonds or investing, they decide to just sit on their cash. Money demand becomes extremely elastic, meaning people will just absorb any amount of new cash the central bank prints without changing their behavior. If you graph this, your LM curve becomes completely horizontal. What's the devastating result? Monetary policy becomes entirely ineffective. The central bank can pump all the new money it wants into the system, but people just hoard it. The central bank completely loses its power. Section 5. Test your macro knowledge, the JRF level mini-test. All right, e-focused learners. We've covered the theory, the equilibriums, and the policy twists. Now it's time to actually challenge yourself and apply what you've learned with a quick, interactive review. So, the crucial point is to lock in these golden rules before we start. Let's do a rapid-fire revision. IS means goods market, and it's downward sloping. LM means money market, and it's upward sloping. Fiscal policy shifts the IS curve, monetary policy shifts the LM curve. And finally, in a liquidity trap, monetary policy is totally weak. Got it? Okay, let's go. Question 1. The IS curve represents equilibrium in which market? Is it A, money market, B, labor market, C, goods market, or D, foreign market? Think about it for a second. And the answer is C, the goods market. Remember that very first exam trick we talked about? Let's move to question 2. The LM curve is generally A, downward sloping, B, vertical, C, upward sloping, or D, horizontal always. Think about the relationship between income and interest rates. The answer is C, it's upward sloping. And for our final test question, question 3. An increase in the money supply shifts A, IS left, B, IS right, C, LM left, or D, LM right. Think about which policy affects which curve. It's D, LM right. Fantastic job if you locked those in. We really mastered the mechanics of these two economic worlds today. But let me leave you with this final provocative thought. If the liquidity trap makes monetary policy completely ineffective, are some of our current global economies, the ones staring down near-zero interest rates, secretly stuck in one right now? Are central banks basically just pushing on a string? Think about how this brilliant theoretical framework actually applies to the very real economic struggles happening all around us today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.